Bold team and now these haters salty. Rockin' Zenny shades to the championship ship. That Nick Bosa drop him hard like a hit stick. The Jimmy Ward intercept him with a big six. Like Debo, we gon' knock him like a brick. The Trey Lance play action to a drop back. When the blitz coming quick, the old line gon' block that. RPO with Kyle Juice. But Mitchell and George Kittle, can't nobody stop that. Stand behind Kyle Shanny all the way. It's like a game of chess when he go to play. Brendan Ayuk on the slanter fade. Bang, bang, Niner gang all day. I'm talking big body trim.
Videos courtesy of NFL.com. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to IE Sports Radio. I'm Niners Jess, along with Ty Alston, Maddie B, and your girl Bex. We are the East Coast Red and Gold, and we have special guest Steph Sanchez from 49 Carats. What's going on, Steph?
Hey, guys. Happy to be on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, welcome.
Hey, welcome. Thanks.
Welcome.
All right.
Thank you for covering the draft so we don't have to.
What he said.
Okay? I say that seriously, full heart, like whole thing. Like the work you have done on this draft, tracking the Google Doc that you have set up, tracking the visitors and everything like that. Like, holy crap. That you're doing the Lord's work, Steph. Don't anybody ever tell you different.
I appreciate that. Yeah, definitely. It's always something I've kind of been interested in doing, and just like I'm interested in like visits and all that stuff. I've always been, and so putting that sheet together was kind of just me trying to hopefully over time look at trends, like what the 49ers typically look for, what they typically draft, the types of players. So hopefully me doing it for a few years will be able to like kind of find those trends.
So out of those visits, who do you think the 49ers take?
Ooh, that's tough.
Yeah, well, you gotta ask when.
Wow, you didn't even softball.
No warm up question at all.
I didn't want to say
here's a nice little compliment.
That.
Now, bam. All right, now let's get this next one accurate, right?
What happened to Hey? How you doing? How's it going? Nope. Who we taking?
How's it going? Here's the knee ball.
There's a few guys that I think feel like they could be Niners. And I tweeted about it yesterday that out of these top 30 visits, this regime will draft at least two of these guys, right? If I had to guess, there's a couple guys who I think would be great fits, like Marty Mapu out of Sac State. He's a linebacker. He's a safety convert, which, like, if you look at all or most of the 49ers linebackers today, Fred Warner included, they used to be safeties, right? So Marty Mapu definitely fits that mold. His draft stock has been rising a lot, though, so I don't know when they would pull the trigger on him. I think there will be a lot of other teams that are probably thinking the same thing, so not sure if they will be able to get him. Jordan Howden is someone who I think they would have a lot of interest in. He's a safety out of Minnesota. He's someone they can get late if they don't feel like they need to go for a safety pretty early. They could get someone like Howden who they can kind of just groom for the future. He'd be part of the competition next season, when Tashawn Gibson is no longer around, right? So that's an option. Yaya Diaby certainly could be there, available in their first 3 picks, right, in the 3rd round. He's more of like a speed rush guy, and that's something they need, right? Of course, they need a lot of depth at edge rusher, but I think they really want someone who brings that speed and that threat, and he definitely kind of fits that mold. Another couple guys that I feel like would be great fits, like Jake Witt. He's an offensive lineman. He's interesting. He was a basketball player in high school. He started playing football kind of just as a secondary sport. He was a tight end. And then in college, he joined as a walk-on, and he had the opportunity. He was kind of voluntold to try to play tackle because they were on the road. They had a lot of offensive linemen that got hurt, so they kind of just plugged him in at tackle for a game. His coach talked to him about it. Do you want to move to offensive lineman full time? He did it. Very athlete, this guy. And he's someone that if the 49ers kind of just want to, mold someone to be the perfect tackle they want and who fits like what they typically look for, Jake Witt could be a guy, but he's also someone whose draft stock has risen a lot. So not sure if he's going to be there for him, if he's going to be there for them, but an option as well. I think the most is, and I'll just say like Braden Willis out of Oklahoma. He's someone who I made a mental note of it because I spoke with him at the combine, and I posted the clip a couple times when I asked him if he met with the 49ers. It was a formal meeting at the combine, which, they have a number of formal meetings, but he also added, I love them, they love me. Usually you don't get, those kind of candid responses from a prospect because, like, usually I think a lot of the meetings are it's like an interview and you don't show your hand like that, right? If you're an interviewer interviewing someone, you don't let them know always that you're like super interested. But I think the 49ers obviously made it clear to him that they do, really like him. And, I think the feeling is mutual. So Braden Willis could be someone who kind of like a Brenton Strange, who a lot of people see as a great fit for the 49ers, the tight end out of Penn State. But Braden Willis is very similar to him, but they could get him later in the draft. And as we know, they have a lot of day 3 picks, right? So I definitely think like Braden Willis could be an option as well. But there's so many guys, like a lot of these guys could realistically get drafted by the 49ers. I have no way of really knowing, but say based on the trend, right? At least two of those guys are going to end up being 49ers.
Yeah, the 2 edge guys that I have are Byron Young of Tennessee and then Viliami Fehoko from San Jose State.
Fehoko definitely, I think, could be there for them, especially like in the 5th round, especially if they want to, I don't know, maybe double dip on an edge guy, which I think makes sense because they lost a few edge guys, right? Guys who were part of their rotation. So I think it would make sense to maybe get an edge guy with one of their 3rd round picks. And if they want to go in the 5th round, another guy, Fehoko definitely could be one of those guys as well. The San Jose connection right in their backyard, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my limited research would say that the edge is going to be tough to get without trading up. Do you think we have to trade up to get the edge guys that we want?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I think there's going to be an opportunity for some good talent to fall to them. And, even if they don't go edge in the 3rd round, I think that there'll be some options there for them later as well. Just because, they have so many day 2 and day 3, right? Yeah. So if they want, they could move around for whatever guy they want. I was doing a mock draft this morning with John Chapman, and we were kind of surprised. Mock drafts aren't reality, right?
Of course.
Surprised at just some of the names who we were seeing in like the 5th round. Fehoko is one of those guys. Jose Ramirez is a guy who a lot of 49er fans like, who could be there in the 5th round as well. So, yeah, I don't think they need to necessarily trade up. Now, if we're talking about tackle, and if the 49ers feel like they need a draft day 1 starting tackle this year, then that's another question, right? Like, I feel like that's something you maybe want to try to push for, to try to get try to move up for, if you want someone who can start day 1. But Manioko actually made a great point. I was listening to the 49ers Talk podcast, I think it was like a few episodes ago, and he mentioned the fact that John Lynch said that they were willing to trade Mike McGlinchey last season, right around this
Yep.
time. And I think that tells you that they were fine with Colton McKivitz potentially being that's the starter at left tackle. Right tackle, right? And he's the guy who they're kind of slating to be the right tackle this season. So maybe there isn't really going to be a competition there. Maybe they don't feel like that's a huge need for them where they're going to go try to get one, pretty high. I would also say like the tackle class isn't super deep, right? So you could always wait for next season, or if Colton McKivitz does a great job, maybe you don't even need to look at a tackle at all, right? Or at least not early. So that's also something to consider. I thought that was interesting. You mentioned that.
Yeah, I read and heard in my limited research that cornerback, tight end, and maybe an edge. If we wanted another edge guy, we were going to have to trade up for that because the talent's not that deep after the first few rounds. But cornerbacks and tight ends it's a rich draft, so we can take those anytime we want. But safeties, we probably have to maneuver to get some decent safeties in this draft class as well.
Yeah, I agree. The safety class definitely is not very deep. I don't think they need someone who's going to start. I think
Right.
they just need someone who's at least
Depth.
can provide you some depth. Yeah, which that's going to be there. So I think that'll be fine. But I think corner is something that they need a lot of depth for, right? So that could be something. And just in case Diamador Lenore is not the same guy we saw in the playoffs, he did great in the playoffs, but maybe if he doesn't look the same in training camp, they can bring someone who can compete, who can maybe take some first team snaps from him in training camp. I don't know, but yeah, it's a very deep corner class, so that's good. I think they'll be able to replenish their depth there.
Who do you see as the ball hawking safety? Is that Jason Taylor? Is that Jay Ward?
You know what? I honestly, Ty, I'm not gonna pretend that I've watched a bunch of film on these guys. I have put together this draft sheet and I've done
Okay.
a bunch of interviews with prospects,
Yeah.
but like that took a lot of my time where like I wasn't able to like actually watch them.
All
I think
good.
next season I have to do a better job of like balancing that. But yeah, I can't really say for sure. I know there's a couple names that like I've heard other people mention for the 49ers, like Jair Brown out of Penn State. I know gets brought up a lot as a great fit for the 49ers. So yeah, he could definitely be that guy. Daniel Scott, I went to the Senior Bowl and I watched Daniel Scott. I never watched him at Cal, right? I can't say I watched a lot of his film, but just from seeing him at the Senior Bowl, he looked like he stood out to me.
Okay.
So
Nice.
take that for what it's worth. Cal guy, he was not at the 49ers local pro day, but I believe he had a Zoom meeting with them not too long ago. Probably because they weren't able to meet with him at the local pro day. And of course, 49ers were there at his actual pro day at Cal. So, but definitely, that could be an option as well. Not sure when they would go safety. It's kind of hard to say because I don't know how big of a need they kind of see it. I don't think they see it as a huge need for this season.
So the John Lynch picture, can you share what the story was behind that?
my picture with John Lynch?
Yes.
Yeah, that was at the combine. I was in Indy for that. That was my first time going to the combine and just experiencing all of that. And what's really cool is, once the day is done, the days start really early. You talk to prospects in the morning at like 8 in the morning, and then you watch guys at the stadium work out. And that's like most of your afternoon. So like after all of that, everyone kind of goes out downtown Indy and just go for dinner. And then by the really late at night, you start seeing, a lot of scouts, a lot of, GMs, media guys just go out to bars. And so there was one night where we went to a bar and John Lynch and Adam Peters just happened to be there. We were like really kind of starstruck, obviously. They're like really tall dudes as well. So like wow, like it's Adam Peters. I was with Jason Aponte, and he's
Another tall dude.
another tall dude. He's a very outgoing guy. So like he's like, come on, Steph, like we're gonna go talk to them. And I was like, oh, okay. So we go back to like where they were, and it wasn't like some closed off section or anything. Like anyone could really go up to them if they wanted to. And Jay introduced himself first. John kind of looks over at me because I was about to shake his hand, sees me, and he kind of laughs like right away. He's like, "Oh, Steph!" Like before I even said my name, he was like, "Oh, Steph," and I was like, "What is happening right now?" Like, how do you know me?
That's amazing.
And then like he turns over to Adam Peters, and he's like, "Adam or AP, check this out. It's Steph," and I'm looking at Jason like, what's going on? And he's like, the Nick Bosa video. And I'm like, what? Like, really? He's like, yeah. And then sure enough, John was like, this is the girl that does the Nick Bosa impressions. And I was like, wow. Like, I had no idea that it reached 49ers, and not only reached the 49ers, but like the front office, right? Like
the highest levels, right?
Exactly. Yep. So I was as equally starstruck because I think it was so funny because like he knew the context of the Nick Bosa videos. Like he explained it even to Adam, like, oh, wow. Yeah, so she heard that Nick was doing the the speeches on Saturdays, and like she started doing one. Like he knew how it all started, and I thought that was really cool. So yes, that Jay snapped that picture for me. I appreciate him for doing that because I don't think anyone would have really even believed the story if you said, "Hey, I met John Lynch and he knows my Nick Bosa videos." No, it was definitely a cool moment for me. I don't think anything could top that for me right now.
I could see that being really cool. That'd be something
for sure. I mean, they were just very friendly guys too. Very personable. It was so funny because like when Jay was talking to Lynch, John was just like, okay, yeah, man. Like obviously not actually saying that, but you can tell right. Like, okay. And then he looks over at me and it's like, hey. I was like,
you're fun.
I know.
Let's talk to her.
I know you.
We got I know, right? You. We got a celeb here.
But yeah, I got to be in the right place at the right time. I had a field pass, and he had guests, and I happened to be standing there just taking some pictures. And he turns around and like there's no one there, and he goes, "Would you mind taking a picture of us with the field and the team in the background?" I was like, "Sure, as long as you'll take a picture with me when we're done." He goes, "Of course." So I took all these pictures with him and his friends, like, I don't know, 50 pictures. I was like, make sure they've got what you want, the logo, everything. Like, these are great. And so
you got all the angles.
Selfies. Yeah. Yep. So I took pictures with his phone for his people, and then he took some selfies with me.
I love it. That's awesome.
But there was a time when we were like 2 and whatever. He walked around the parking lot to all the fans, shook hands, and came out to all the tailgating groups and took pictures. So there's pictures with John Lynch. When we were like, we're not so great. So, but he was out there like, thanks for being fans. Thanks for coming out and like just literally walked around all of the, the parking lot tailgate parties. So he's a good dude. There's nothing you could ever say bad about John Lynch.
He's definitely a great face for the franchise, right? Yeah. Like I think he's like the perfect like GM, very media savvy.
He is.
Yeah,
he's skilled and just always projects this just positive, like measured message to everyone. Like there's no crazy.
Yeah.
He's got a plan. He works hard. He really, really cares, and it shows. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Steph, Derek Swanson wants to know, what trends have you noticed?
I will say that I think they value positional versatility. I think one of the things that kind of translates to some of the free agency moves that they made in the secondary, a lot of those guys, if you notice, are very versatile. Like they could play safety, they could play nickel corner, things like that. I feel like that's definitely something they value, not just in the secondary position, but a lot of the other positions as well, like offensive line. I think they do value some guys who, could play multiple spots on the line. I think, let's see. It's my first year doing the full list, so I think over time I'll notice more trends. But definitely, again, like offensive linemen, it seems like they like guys obviously who are very athletic. Like that's always something that they've looked for, or like in Kyle Shanahan's system, what they look for, because you need to be really athletic to get to the second level, and you need to be able to move. It's just a very, I guess, physically demanding in a way for the offensive linemen. And as I mentioned earlier, the linebackers that they meet with, or have interest in, a lot of them come from a safety background, and kind of vice versa as well. Like you'll notice some of the safeties also have some previous linebacker experience. So I think they like, to have a mix of both. It's really kind of interesting. You look at Talanoa Hufanga, right? Who kind of coming out of USC, he's like a hybrid. And even today he plays in the box a lot, right? So I think that's definitely something that even today they look at. And some of these guys, I think wide receivers as well. Kyle Shanahan definitely has a type. I feel like there are still some guys who are very like Debo like, because I think every draft since Debo, everyone's like, I was trying to find the
Debo,
next
that
Debo.
guy.
There
Debo.
is no other Debo. But just a guy who can have an impact after the catch, and you can run end arounds with, things like that. A guy like Ronnie Bell, for example, who they've met with. I think they still look at guys like that, guys that they're interested in. Like they've looked at a lot of slot guys. I think in this draft, which makes sense. I mean, if you're looking at Jawan Jennings being the wide receiver 3, he's kind of a big slot, right? But I think like some of the wide receivers that they've had interest in, there are some who are like the smaller, shifty or kind of guys, almost like what you would have thought Trent Taylor would have
Yeah.
would have been, right? So I think there might be some interest in that as well. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of it's hard to say. Like I think I'm really excited to continue doing this, and like over time be able to find even more small trends like that. But for now, I think those are the ones that kind of stand out to me. And of course, like they've met with a plethora of tight ends. That's the trend for this season, or this off season, this draft cycle, which isn't surprising. There's been many reports of that after the combine. Like a lot of us who were there were like, they met with every tight end who was at the combine. They pretty much did. Like, no lie, we asked like almost every tight end, have you met with the 49ers? And almost all of them did, whether it was formal or informal. So that's definitely a trend. They're definitely going to draft the tight end. And I keep saying, like, this tight end class is so deep, they could maybe come away with 2 of them if they wanted to.
I was going to ask that. Can you see them
Corners
drafting
and
2?
tight ends are like 2 of the deepest classes in this draft, is what I understand. So yeah.
And they have 11 picks. So if assuming, and I don't want to assume that they keep all 11, I think they could do some maneuvering, either a couple picks up or back if they want, and get extra picks for next year, what have you. I think they can double dip on corner, on maybe edge if they want, on tight end if they want, but I think we're going to see a lot of like best player available picks, ones that maybe won't make a lot of sense because we're like, oh, but you need this. And they're like, no, not really. Like, and they get the best player available. So, yeah, I think we'll see a lot of that as well.
Yeah, I did 2 mock drafts, and I was surprised that the kid from Michigan, Luke Schoonmaker, the tight end, was available. Zach Kuntz from Old Dominion, Josh Wiley from Cincinnati. I was surprised that they were still available for the mock drafts, but obviously it's a mock draft.
Yeah, and then so like when I was doing the mock draft earlier today with John, like we took Wiley. I don't know if it's Wiley or Weil. I like Wiley. It sounds a little funner.
Sounds
Wiley.
right.
So like we took Wiley, and like honestly, like we did it through PFF, and PFF gave us like a D for picking Wiley when we did. Because I guess like he would have been there later.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I think because this tight end class is so deep.
It's deep, right?
Some of the talent, some really good talent is probably just going to get, pushed down the board. So I'm excited for that, honestly. And Shoemaker, I saw today he was one of the latest top 30 visits that we've heard about. So added that to my tracker today.
See, the tracker gets
the
something
tracker.
That's
tracker.
good.
Love the tracker.
Do you
So
think?
now, go ahead, Benny.
Do you think at this point, like they're worried about getting this talent for this year, or are they more concerned about getting more people into the red and gold red shirt pipeline here, so that they're ready for next year, the year after?
I think kind of both, because like they have to start looking to the future, right? And I think they know that they're going to get to a point where, and I think they're kind of already at that point where the draft picks do become important for continuity. Like if you want to sustain what you have, you're going to have to hit on these picks, right? And so obviously they have the foundation. They know a lot of the guys who they draft maybe aren't going to be able to crack a starting position. Not all of them, very few are available, right? So knowing that, some guys are on 1-year deals, there's a few guys who may not be here in, next year, 2 years, maybe 3 years from now, right? You do have to start thinking about those things and, finding those like diamond in the roughs that you can kind of like develop into those starting roles in the future for sure. Yeah, I think they're good at it, or it has seemed like they're good at it, especially finding some talent late in the draft. And so that's why I'm kind of excited for them having so many picks in day 2 and day 3, because I think they've proven that they can find good talent there.
They scoop it up. So Steph, I have a question. Like mine is gonna be like the rogue rant, out there question of, we've had all the fever dream stuff with Trey Lance, and now John Lynch has said he's had conversations with Trey Lance about the potential of being traded. Like the whole place blew up a few weeks ago when we talked about Trey Lance as our starter, not starter. What are we going to do with Trey Lance? Where do you have a scenario in your mind of the craziest, fever dream that you can dream up that we trade Trey Lance, and what does that look like? What are we trading for, and who would it be? Who's your fever dream that we're trading Trey Lance away to get our person? What does that look like?
Are you saying like a player for player trade?
Well, whatever draft scenario trade we can come up with, we're going to trade Trey Lance. Like John Lynch has literally said out loud, I had a conversation with Trey Lance about the potential of you being traded. What scenario could you possibly envision happening that we trade Trey Lance in the draft for anyone or anything for any reason?
I really don't see a scenario, or I should say I don't see many scenarios where the 49ers end up trading Lance, during the draft.
During the
And
draft?
I've been pretty, vocal about that because I know there have been some other people who have been very strongly on the other end saying that he is definitely going to be traded. And I don't agree with that at all.
I'm
And
not on either side of the fence. I'm just, the GM said I had a conversation with him about it. So I'm
Yeah,
always, I hear the word, I listen to.
But he also said that Trey is going to be here.
so here's
He
what
has
I
said a
think.
lot of
Here's what I think. I think the 49ers did kind of invite the
Mhm.
calls, right? They invited other teams to inquire on Lance. And I think more so than anything, it was just to see if any team would offer them something. And it would have to be kind of ridiculous, right? Because it would have to be something that would make it worth the 49ers taking on a risk. And I say it's a risk because you're
Yeah.
trading away. Well,
the
now he's
draft
healthy, he's
picks
fully
that we
cleared.
already traded to get him. And then with his
Yes.
unknown, right, like his unknown whatever.
Brock Purdy, he's still going through rehab. You don't know exactly what he's going to
Yeah.
look like, when everything's said and done with that rehab. It would be a huge risk for the 49ers to, move on from Trey Lance right now. It would also be close to an 11 million dead cap hit for them. So you look at all these things and you think to yourself, well, why would the 49ers trade him?
Right.
Not that it's impossible, but to me, it's unlikely. Also, I think it's unlikely that another team is going to be willing to give up what I think the 49ers are probably maybe asking for. The at least I think they would ask for a first.
At least
That's maybe
right?
at least. And
well, for what we gave up, that's what I would
Yeah.
think too. In my mind, John Lynch saying that out loud. So, because that's what I always hear. I listen to the senior leadership. The words they say mean something. So when he said we've had those conversations with Trey Lance, that there's a potential that you're on the trading block.
yeah, I think there's the potential, and I think he had to have that talk with Lance just because the media is talking about it. It's kind of
That's what he
I
said.
agree. Yeah.
That's what he said.
Yep.
It's kind of like the elephant in the room, and it's like if you don't talk to him about it, that looks kind of bad. Because interesting enough, Trey Lance, when he was at that spring game this past weekend at NDSU, right, he was asked about all these trade rumors, to which Trey Lance said, I don't know anything about any trade, right?
Right.
And then, Monday, John Lynch says, yeah, we've talked about it. We're on the same page. So I don't know if Lynch spoke to Lance and that after he had that conversation. I don't know. It didn't really align. I thought that was interesting. But in any case, it seemed like John Lynch said there wasn't anything, substantive. Is that the word?
Substantiated.
Yeah.
Substantial.
But what I
Substantial.
was just thinking, like in that whole scenario, like if there's
Breaking out the big words.
a crazy Ivan trade scenario, what do you think it might be in the draft? Or do you envision any kinds of like the 49ers go rogue and do some crazy Trey Lance trade? Because I don't personally think we're going to do anything wild and crazy with Trey, but during the draft. But
no, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think again, only if another team made that offer, which I just don't see another team doing that. So I think it's more likely somewhere down the line. Of course, it's a fluid situation. I can't predict the future. I don't know what's going to happen with Brock, right? I don't know what's going to happen with Lance, with Darnold. But if just looking at it right now, if I had to guess based on what we know now, it looks like Trey Lance will probably be traded sometime in the future. Maybe in the middle of the season before the trade deadline. I don't know, but I definitely don't think it'll happen during the draft.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm just throwing out the unicorn like scenario. Like if there was a crazy arguing thing, like someone calls up and like, hey.
So, Steph,
know.
I know you like the all the draft stuff, but how did you actually become a 49ers fan?
My brother was always a huge just Bay Area sports fan. My dad as well, but definitely like mostly my brother. He's always had like the sports posters on the wall, and he has a man cave now.
Shout
so
out
just
to Fabio.
yeah, Ty. I've had him on my podcast a few times, and actually on my channel, we did like a little mini tour of his man cave. If you want to check that video out, I think that I posted that sometime last year. But yeah, I mean, definitely, he's someone I've always looked up to, and definitely someone who, ignited my love for the 49ers because that's I think out of all the Bay Area sports teams, I think he loves the 49ers more than any of the other ones. So he took me to my first Niner game. I was like, I think I was in high school when I went to my first Niners game. Started watching them a few years before that. They were bad, like most of my maybe childhood or before that time. When I became a fan, they were kind of bad. So it's been cool to like see the progression of where they started when I started watching to where they are now.
Cool.
What
right.
what does Little Bosa think about a contract extension at this point?
Am I the smaller bear?
I think There's right. That's how that works. Yeah.
No, I'm excited for a Nick Bosa extension. I think the 49ers have to get that done no matter what. I don't care what he's asking for. You just got to do it. I mean, I think the impact that he had on that defense, it changed everything. I'm sure there was more to it than just Nick Bosa, but I remember what the defense looked like, for Robert Saleh before Nick Bosa arrived. It was like good. You could see the pieces, but they weren't shutting things down, like they were when Nick Bosa arrived. He changed everything, I think. And he's definitely, one of those impact players who you want to keep around. He needs to be. You talk about brick by brick, right? He's one of those bricks at the bottom because he's like a foundational piece to what they've built, I think, and especially on defense. So I don't care what he's asking for. You try to get it done. He deserves it.
Yes, he does.
So how about the actually, you know what? David McNiner has a question. I'll allow it because it's David McNiner.
I'll allow it.
Judge's ruling.
You're like a judge.
She rules with an iron fist.
Yeah.
It really is. Judge Jess.
I'll allow it.
Judge Jess.
Yeah. How long does Kyle Shanahan have before the axe falls?
I mean, as long as he still makes the playoffs, I think it's hard to kind of argue. And when he makes the playoffs, he goes to the NFC Championship game. So
they're deep runs.
As
long as he's breathing air so far.
Right.
I know. It could be a situation like Andy Reid in Philadelphia, where eventually you get tired of not winning a Super Bowl. And I know in Andy Reid's last season with Philly, they underperformed, right? I don't think
bad.
Yes. So I don't think Kyle Shanahan's really gotten to that point. I'd be shocked, with what I've seen from the way they've built this team, this entire regime, not just Kyle, I feel like they have a really good shot at keeping this going. So as long as they do that and they hit on these draft picks, Kyle is going to be able to, keep this roster competitive. And I think that's all you can ask for out of a coach. It's only a matter of time for Kyle, just like it was for Andy Reid, because when you're that good at what you do as an offensive play caller and just like all the play designs and all of that, it's only a matter of time. I think, early on we saw some head coaching mistakes from Kyle, right? That, you can look back on and he could look back on and hopefully learn from, right? I think that comes with time. But I think it would just be a mistake to let go of Kyle prematurely. A guy like him, he's eventually going to win a Super Bowl, I think. So if it's not with the 49ers, it would be with another team. So I think they just got to hang tight for however long. And I think Judd York is pretty patient because he knows. I think there were some egos got in the way in the Harbaugh era, right? And
he tried to play the short game and it didn't work for him.
It did not work out. I think he definitely learned some things from that, and so I think he'd definitely be a little more patient with Kyle, give him a longer leash, and it's so far it's worked out pretty great.
Okay. 5th-year options for BA and Kinlaw. Are they picked up on Monday? Because John Lynch had said that after the draft, I think they got to do it by Monday.
Yeah.
So are they picked up?
I think Ayuk's will be.
Yeah.
I don't think Kinlaw's will be. And I think that's why he didn't want to make any announcements, because I don't think they had told Kinlaw yet. That was my suspicion. That's kind of what it sounded like. Because just a month earlier, John Lynch had said that they expect to pick up Ayuk's 5th-year option. Yeah. And I know when he was asked about Brandon Ayuk potentially being traded down the line, that was a weird answer. Comfortable answer. Even I get that. I think he wasn't really expecting to be asked about a Brandon Ayuk potential trade. I can veer off into a whole different conversation here, and maybe I will after this. But I feel like, really they do want Brandon Ayuk around. I think they're going to pick up that 5th-year option, and I simply think they hadn't told Kinlaw that they would not pick his up yet. And that's why it would be weird had he said, yeah, we're going to pick up Brandon Ayuk's. Someone would have been like, well, what about Kinlaw's?
Right.
Can't say yes or no right then before talking to Kinlaw about it. So it makes sense. So they'll probably announce that sometime after the draft, or Monday we'll probably hear about it. Oh, the other conversation I was gonna kind of veer off to with Brandon Ayuk. If you notice, these last few drafts, the 49ers have we've been in these conversations of trade this guy like right before the draft. There's always someone. Last year it was Deebo Samuel. Maybe even Jimmy Garoppolo too, but not so much because of the shoulder thing. Year before that, Jimmy Garoppolo. Before Kittle's extension, you could have said Kittle as well. There were some rumblings there. So I think every season,
Jess needs a moment. Hold on. Time out. Give her a 30
Notice
second.
she had to take a sip of her White Claw there. Like, wait a minute.
Yeah, no, hold on. Wait, there we go.
Deep breath.
Deep breath.
Everyone stop the presses. Jess, okay, you good?
Is that why you got those bottles to the right of you there?
Right.
You need a...
Yeah, you see it, Steph.
It's the essentials.
In arm's reach.
Steph,
yeah.
You make one disparaging, not even a side eye with Kittle. You better give her a moment to process it.
Well, he's still around, so regardless of the trade talk, he's he remained. But I think the 49ers kind of like to go into the draft dangling a player like, hey, like we might trade this guy, like almost inviting trade conversations around a certain player. Not so much with because they want to trade the player, but not because they don't want to either. Like they just kind of want to see if someone will offer them something crazy, you know? And that's smart, honestly.
Yeah.
Every draft and hey, let's just see. Let's just see. If
Well,
someone
I mean,
offers
you
us
wouldn't
something
want
real
to
crazy
bring
for
anything on
Debo,
the
it's
top.
like we'll do it. Yeah. So and same thing with Trey, you know,
Yep.
what we're talking about right now. The reality of it is that a lot of these teams actually take the bait. But I think it's smart nonetheless. And who knows? Maybe someday. I think to bring Brandon Ayuk back into it, I think next season we're gonna see or hear a lot of will Brandon Ayuk be traded during the draft this time next year.
Yeah, I think it'll be a make or break year for Brandon Ayuk next year. I do. I agree with you. Yeah.
You know, honestly, I think they should keep Brandon Ayuk around. He's an all-around receiver who I think is getting better every year.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, I definitely feel like he'll be valuable to them going forward. I love Debo Samuel, but just from the business side of it, if you look at Debo Samuel's skill set, and you know, you look at Christian McCaffrey's who they traded for last season, a lot of those skill sets do overlap.
Yeah.
Said, if you get into a situation where you feel like you have to pick between Debo and Ayuk, then you know I think it may make more sense to keep Ayuk around. But you know, I was talking with Jason Hurley, you know, the 49ers cap guy. I had him on my podcast, and I asked him about like, you know, do the 49ers really have to pick between Debo or Ayuk, or is there a way that they could fit these guys within their cap? You know, he said that they could keep them if they really wanted to. Now, if they want to allocate that much money to the receiver position, that's another question.
Yeah.
I think that's the real question. It's not whether they could do it, it's whether they want to.
Want to, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we have pick 99 to start. As far as position goes, how do you think they go?
So originally, and I tweeted this out, like I think they go OT, edge, and tight end with their first three picks. But then, you know, after I heard Mayoko say like maybe they don't think tackle is like as big a need as we do, I was like, like he has a point. Like, because every draft we go into it thinking they have to get this position. And then they don't. Like, there's at least one position that they like don't, but everyone else thinks they should. And tackle could be that position this year. I don't know. So if I were building the roster, I would go edge, tight end. But I'm not, so we'll see what they do. I think edge. I definitely go edge. With one of those three picks for sure.
Yeah, I think I would go tight end, edge, and safety.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad at it for sure.
Yeah,
either one, even corner.
I went tight end, edge, safety.
I say they go quarterback,
quarterback,
and we just watch the world burn. That's what we do.
I actually,
he's quiet. He's like, I'm all in on quarterback. I'm not going to say anything else but quarterback.
In my mock draft, I did have them taking Stetson Bennett from Georgia.
In the third round?
No, like later, 6th round.
I mean, I don't know. I could see that. I just don't know if like, aren't there like character concerns with him, or like, I don't know. Some people were questioning how much he loves football or something. Like, I don't know how big of a deal that is.
As long as we don't have the whole ACL roster of rehab, the Trent Baalke model.
Yeah.
They're just hating on Stenson because he's old.
Yeah, that too.
It's ageism.
Yeah,
in a serious
running back, hopefully no running backs in the third round, but
Hey, if Bobby Turner gets his way, he's gonna be like, "You got 3 picks in the 3rd round. How could you possibly go wrong?"
Hey,
Like,
we might have to start asking the question: does Bobby Turner have too much power?
That's the real question. Uh-oh.
hot take alert! Hot take alert!
I better not see anybody steal this for their podcast.
All right, that's what we're doing. This is how we're repackaging this entire interview. Does Bobby Turner have too much power? That's the
There you
headline.
go.
That's what we
Boom.
do.
I'm gonna clip that. Put it on Twitter.
Oh man. Seriously though, what round do you think we take a quarterback? Or do you think they grabbed an undrafted one maybe?
Both.
All that's possible. I think the earliest would be round 6, honestly. Unless, like, again, unless they go best player available and someone who was expected to go way sooner, like a DTR, Robinson, who they've met with 3 times. If he gets to, like, the 5th round, I'd think about it, right? I think you got to consider that. But other than that, I feel like definitely 6th round would be the earliest, and I don't know, maybe they do go PFA, right? So that's always an option.
Who's our franchise quarterback moving forward?
Stetson Bennett.
This guy.
Wow, yeah.
I'm gonna mute myself.
Do I hear Hendon Hooker? Hendon Hooker for 1,000, please. Hendon Hooker, yes.
I'm gonna hide. I'm gonna be like slow down.
He said it so matter-of-factly, too. It was like,
Yeah,
obviously.
I'm like,
Clearly Stetson Bennett, yeah.
Yeah,
Clearly.
obviously.
What's wrong
Read
with
the
us?
tea leaves. They wanted an old veteran quarterback to come in.
Read between the lines, people. Come
There
on.
you go.
Best of both worlds. Sing it, Hannah Montana.
To answer the question,
Wow,
I would, based on, I'm kind of reading the tea leaves on just what John Lynch and Kyle have said. It's Brock Purdy, right? And that, of course, depends on everything going well with the rehab, which it should, right? Pretty, I think, like, standard surgery, and players can come back from it. So he shouldn't be. I think more so the mental aspect of it is where we have to see if he's the same guy. But the arm strength, all that should be the same. So I think it's going to be Brock Purdy. We'll see though. Next year, like Kirk Cousins. If Kirk Cousins become available, someone lock up like Kyle Shanahan, because he might not be able to.
he won't be able to contain himself.
Gonna have to take an early Cancun
He's
trip
like,
that year.
He'll be like,
I'll talk to him.
John, you didn't let me have him the first time. I'm taking him this time.
He's coming. Bring my boy.
He might have to put his foot down. I don't know.
All this QB talk is going to be.
We're getting the band back together, baby. Let's go.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the
Him and
last thing
Kirk.
we need.
We've talked about it before, and people are like, "No, never bring Cousins here." I'm like, if he comes available, it's not going to be. It's going to be irresistible.
It's like getting back together with your college partner, right? Like it didn't work out for a reason. So what are we doing here?
Honestly, I think Cousins, say what you want about him, but I think he would be obviously an upgrade over who the 49ers have had under Kyle Shanahan as a quarterback option, right? We've seen them make deep playoff runs with Jimmy Garoppolo. We've seen him do a deep playoff run with Brock Purdy. Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than both of those guys. So, just I wouldn't rule it out, or I wouldn't dismiss it. In the comments is not.
I know. Listen,
you're friends with Melissa. I tell you that much.
Not happy.
She tells you what she thinks. It doesn't matter, right?
Steph, what do you think about Melissa's question?
Who you see push this year, Mason or
yeah.
TDP? Melissa, what do you mean by push? Like maybe like step or like pushed out of the roster? You
push
mean like
Bob into
One's going to
Another
be
first
Eli.
round.
One's going to be Elijah Mitchell, and one's going to be Trey Sermon. I think, right? I think that's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Like,
Here's what
who's going to be the
Yeah.
Trey Sermon, and who's going to be the Elijah Mitchell?
Gotcha. Enough. I do feel like Elijah Mitchell could be traded this season. Um, I don't know why. I just have this feeling. TDP won't play. I don't know. Like now or never for TDP, right? Like this is kind of his. This is his Trey Sermon year, right? Like he has to kind of look good in camp, or I think he's gonna be gone or push down the roster, maybe the practice squad, right? That wouldn't be good. Who gets the push to be a starter? Obviously, it seems he's going to be the starter, but I think beyond that, let's just say they trade Elijah Mitchell. I think Jordan Mason kind of he proved himself last year. Another year under his belt, he may look even better, right? So, I like Jordan Mason. I can't say definitive about TDP. We just haven't seen enough of him. And that could be for a reason. So if I'm leaning in any direction on TDP, it's that I don't know if he's going to be a guy who sticks around, but I can't really say for sure until I see how he looks in training camp. And to RJ's point, Mitchell, he's great. He's great when he's healthy. He's so good, especially as like a compliment to Christian McCaffrey. I think him, like in the few games that they played together, I think him being out there helped McCaffrey a ton.
Heck yeah.
The problem was that he wasn't out there very often, and it's just such a shame.
He was injured.
He's such a good running back, and I think the 49ers like him a lot, but the best ability is availability, and if you can't get on the field, it's kind of hard to justify, keeping him around. And that being said, like you have a lot of, I think, Shanahan disciples who would be happy to have Elijah Mitchell, regardless of injury history. Think about Rand Carthon, who he talked about him basically like table for Elijah Mitchell being drafted, right? So, Titans would be a potential landing spot. Maybe the Texans would be a good Dolphins as well. That seems
Dolphins love 49ers running backs.
Yeah,
Like
they
that's
just
they do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's several options. That's a good thing for the 49ers that they have so many trade partners now because there's so many like Shanahan disciples out there now who would be happy to have some of these guys, right? So that's why I kind of just feel like this might be the season for Elijah Mitchell. But we'll see.
I could see the Texans because I could see him with Pierce in the backfield being pretty
Pierce
decent.
is so good. Yeah, that would be nice.
and he can't take every snap, so you need somebody in there to do that. And I think Mitchell has proven that he's not going to be somebody that's going to be there to take every snap. So if you can get some sort of like equitable thing going there, I think you've got a decent 1-2 punch. I think that can help their offense quite a bit.
For sure.
Steph, last one for me. Who's your 49ers Mount Rushmore?
Woo-hoo. Okay. How many faces go on Mount Rushmore?
4.
4.
An important question, right? I'm like rattling off 10 names. 4. Okay. So you gotta keep in mind when I started watching the Niners. I know obviously Montana. I'm gonna put Montana on there because I know the impact that he had. I'm gonna. That's tough, man. So Montana's definitely on there. Steve Young. I'll put Steve Young there. I only got 2 more. I'm sweating.
There's a wide receiver that probably should.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah, Dwight Clark.
Ty Streets.
yes, Ty Streets.
Right. Oh my God, Jerry Rice. Yeah.
No, hold up. We're going to switch it up. Okay. Steve Young, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, and Ronnie Lott. never played for the 49ers. Now, who's your 49ers Mount Rushmore?
Ooh.
I like that question more because like that's tough. That was tough before because it's like I'm having to say these guys who like I never really watched. Like I did watch a little bit of Steve Young, watching my parents, my family watch him, but not enough where like I know his impact, but like I never actually like watched him like that.
Yeah.
Rice, I've watched and I love him. Okay, so
give
let's
us
do this.
Yes,
Yeah,
give
let's
us
do
yours.
this.
Who you've seen,
Mine.
who you would put up there.
Mine. Okay.
In the Steph Sanchez timeline.
Easily, I could say Joe Staley. Say Patrick Willis. Oh man, I got one more. Let's see.
Who was the second one?
Frank Gore.
Frank Gore, yeah. I'm trying to think someone in like this era, like Nick Bosa, probably. I mean, I don't know.
I feel like you could go with like Kittle, Bosa, or Trent Williams, and any of that for the last round.
Sure.
I think you win.
But I feel like
right?
Cowboy probably, he played so long for us. He's a good choice too.
Yeah, for sure. He's one of those guys that just never really got the love he deserved. Yes, I think within like
that era.
even in like 49er fandom, like sometimes he's forgotten in conversations. Yeah. It definitely had a huge impact. I mean, he helped Alden Smith be so productive, I think, right? So, he definitely doesn't get his due. But yeah, those are my four. I feel pretty good about that list.
And someone mentioned Bubba Paris. Like Bubba Paris is my era. And that Bubba's on my wall of fame with the man of the the era with Bill Walsh. So like I got big Bubba.
Bubba Paris, like my favorite Bubba Paris story was them finding like him stashing food in his like training camp walls. They couldn't figure out why he wasn't losing weight. Like, oh yeah, he'd stash in the walls, like snacks.
Oh
candy,
yeah, he was stashing snacks.
Yeah.
Nice, RJ.
Pizza boxes, whole 9 yards.
I can identify with that, like
just spirit animal.
Yeah.
Hey, we gotta do what we gotta do, right? Don't tell me you gotta lose 12 pounds. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So I got a question for Steph. Hold on. So Steph, it's training camp this year. Nick Bosa walks up to you and he goes, "What's up?" What do you say?
Stop.
I'd say voice. No, I mean, I'd obviously try to get a picture with him. I'd be like, yo, can we do a TikTok together? Like that would just be so sick. I gotta meet him. Like at this point, I feel like I have to meet him. I gotta manifest that,
Yeah.
That's my
hot take. He knows about the videos, so
he's a cool dude.
Yeah, I definitely want to.
His mom
he's going to spot you at camp and make a beeline straight to you.
I mean, I'm not going to be on the field, so I don't know if he'll see me, but I'm pretty short. But somehow we got to facilitate some, me meeting him at some point. We'll see.
All right.
She passes out. Randy said I'd pass out.
Well, no, that's Cheryl. That's just what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Steph Sanchez, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steph.
Appreciate it,
so
Steph.
much. This was a lot of fun. Thank you, guys.
And we'd love to have you on down the road.
Yeah, likewise. Bex, I've just been dying to ask you as I've seen your background here. Are you at Levi Stadium or not?
This
Like,
this
you're
is
like at
my
the
house.
like
This
you're
is
at the
my.
facility.
This is in the diva den. It is in my diva den. I painted the logo on my wall. Yeah,
That
so
looks so like
that's in my
so
house. I
clean.
got like all my
I like
stuff
that.
everywhere.
We're gonna have to do a man.
It's the diva den.
A girl
Diva
cave,
Den
the
tour,
diva
yeah.
den,
The
diva den tour. There you go.
This is what it is. That's what we call it.
Diva den.
The
All right,
Already at.
we got to do a
There's
tour
no
of that one day.
man. There's no man anymore, so it's not
Anymore.
man
Oh.
cave. Yeah. It's mine.
All right, I like it.
All
I
right.
like it.
I like to
On
hear.
that note,
I know.
Girl power.
Steph, enjoy the draft.
thanks, guys. You no, for real. You guys too. This was a lot of fun. You guys like to have a good time. I can
Oh,
dig
yeah.
it.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
so keep us posted in the draft. We'll be following you closely, and yeah,
Thanks,
hot
guys.
takes.
Thanks for having
all the
me.
hot takes. We're here
right,
for it.
thanks.
Hot takes.
See you on the road, friend.
Peace.
See ya. All right. Cool. So what do you guys think? Thoughts?
I don't know.
Man.
Jess, I was going to tell you earlier, your hair looks fantastic. I don't know. It looks like swoopy and really cute. I don't know. I was going to I was going to say that earlier, but you know, we were hot in the.
Well, thank you.
It does. I was like, oh my god, I love her hair tonight. Anyway,
Thank you.
that's my hot take.
I haven't done anything different to it, but thank you. I appreciate that.
So there's
What's up, Maddie? What do you think about the draft? And you were saying earlier, you were saying backstage about, you know, the latest about Lamar Jackson and all that stuff. So share.
I'm just so excited for this to be over with, guys. Like as a fan and as an old man, I just can't deal with all of this, right? Like, and Derek, we'll mention something about round one in a minute. That's also something that I can't wait to get over with, right? Like, to get Bryce Young drafted and then let everybody else do their stupid stuff, right? Because people are going to do stupid things. There's going to be just stupidity that happens tomorrow. I can feel it. I smell stupidity in the air. But
Yep.
Dan Patrick had like an 18-second clip today about the 49ers had done their due diligence on Lamar Jackson. It wasn't like some sort of they're doing it right now or they're doing it tomorrow. It was like they had done it. It's kind of an offhanded comment. And again, it was an 18-second clip. 18 seconds. I have seen no shortage. I've seen at least 11 different articles or tweets based or in stories based off of this specific thing that was sourced on sports radio. Once again, sourced on sports radio before the draft, guys. Come on, stop falling for the bait. Stop. I know it brings the page views and Lamar Jackson's gonna come here.
coming here.
Stop it. Just stop it. 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 It's not gonna happen. The biggest reason, not only do they like really believe in Brock Purdy, they believe in the fact that Brock Purdy is cost controlled for the next. He's like a rent controlled apartment in New York City for the next 2 years, guys. Like they can't sign him to a contract extension. They can't do anything to him. Like
And
he
not
gets
only
paid.
is he rent controlled, he is like the model citizen.
Yes.
He's the
Model
best
apartment.
possible tenant you could have. He's
100%.
yeah,
Pays on time, auto pay, no problem.
right. All
It's
the
all
things
there.
that
But
check
also, you
all the
can't raise
boxes.
that rent. He can't, none of it. Like, he is cost control. You're going to be able to afford so much more, right? Because if somebody hits the buyout market and they're like, boy, I really want to win a Super Bowl, they're going to be able to choose San Francisco because we're going to have that room. We're going to have that space. Going to be able to give them that little extra money, give them that little extra incentive, only because he is here because of that thing. I think that's what they see, right? I think at the end of the day, like they see him, they look at him and Trey, and I think they really want Trey to be really good, and they're hoping that he's good. But I think they look at that price tag on Brock Purdy, and they're like, you know, he's that meme of the dude coming around outside of the tree, like Just look at that $875,000, $954,000 million cap hit. There's no fifth-year option for Brock Purdy, right? There's no fifth-year option. So
Well, but
you've got the next.
He has to also be giving you something of value. Like, just because he's cheap doesn't. It's like going to the dollar store. Just because it's cheap doesn't always mean it's good or it's better. Like, sometimes you want to pay for quality. But if you walked in and you magically found awesome in the squirt bottle that does the most amazing cleaning job ever for $1 a bottle, why would you go buy $5 Clorox spray when you've got awesome in a squirt bottle for $1 that does unimaginable things for you? Like, literally, I could tell you.
Cleans off that shower mold that you just can never quite get to, right? Whatever.
It takes the mold away. It does everything. Yeah. It's awesome, like the name says it is. I'm telling you, I could tell you a story that goes back years. But yeah, like, sometimes you find value in the dollar store that's unmeasurable, and you can't compare it to anything else. If you get Mr. Irrelevant in the very last pick of the draft because you saw something that no one else did, fine. You got an eye for something that no one else has an eye for. So hopefully that continues to translate year over year. But yeah, why are you going to overpay for anything else? You're not. You're going to take that talent and you're going to translate that into success. And God bless you. Like, why are you not going to? Of course, you're going to run out your other options and make sure you're not going to give up something you shouldn't. But good Lord, I listen to the words that, like I said before, the GM has said it out loud. We've had talks with Trey. He might be traded. We've had talks with Trey. We've said the quiet part out loud. People don't want to hear it, but the business end of it, they're saying it out loud. Trey's not necessarily our future. And I think that's what you got to listen to. GM's talking. They're saying the words. Here we are. Hopefully they find great things in the draft.
Hopefully everybody finds their way to make themselves happy, but that's just a lot. And with the cap going up to $256 million, nobody's ever going to be fully happy. Exactly. But no, with the cap going up to $256 million after next year too, like, this team is in prime position to make a run, provided they can get everything together. And keep everything together. So they're in a great spot here, and they don't have to. They don't have to draft for immediate need. They can draft for semi-immediate need, which is really a big key for any one of these franchises to keep that longevity going.
We don't have to give him up for anything.
Ty, what do you think about what John Lynn said?
What part?
About talking to Trey Lance.
Oh, I think he had an honest conversation with him, like he just said. He said, due to the sensitivity of talk about player trade, I was a player, so I know what it's like. So I went to Trey and I talked to him about the trade talk. Mm-hmm. Period. And then he said, we aren't shopping him. Then he said, we haven't had any offers for him. It was just people calling, asking questions. So
and then he said, we really expect him to be here.
Yeah.
There's nothing there. And we talked about this last week. This is exactly what we said last week. If someone picks up the phone call and says, hey, John, how you doing? Hey, are you interested in trading someone? No. Oh, okay. Click. That gets out. Oh, such and such team called about trading a guy. That's how news gets out. That's how it works. And you said when there's a whole lot of it is a whole lot of smoke. There's nothing there. I think the interesting comment about the whole thing is when they asked him about Nick Bosa. And he said that hotline is closed. To me, that sounds like someone called and said, hey, John, I know you guys like Nick Bosa, but I know you're also up against the salary cap. We're willing to offer you X, Y, and Z for Nick Bosa. That was probably low. And John was like, heck no. Get
Yeah.
out of here. Don't ever call me again.
Shut up.
Yeah. So he probably got an offer for Nick Bosa, like, hey, we'll give you, a second and a third for him. And this defensive end that we drafted in the 5th round last year. He was like, heck no. Lose my number. Click. That was an interesting comment.
All right. Before we get back to a couple questions on the draft, make sure you like and subscribe to us, East Coast Red and Gold, on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Which it has been for the last 8 years. And of course, you can check out all the Patreon tiers at 9 now. Are we on 9? 8? No, 8. Sorry. I was miscounting your hands. Sorry. And again, iesportsradio.com, and check out all the Patreon tiers there. It's by the fans and for the fans, and you can be a part of it just by going there. iesportsradio.com.
/ East Coast Red and Gold. Here we go. All right. David McNiner, is there a point in watching day one?
Do you like to watch the world burn? Like, honestly, that's my question. If you do, yes, because here's the thing. Whatever happens in the National Football League will eventually create a situation of opportunity for this football team, right? Somebody's going to do something ridiculous, and they're going to end up cutting somebody they shouldn't, or put somebody on the trade market that they shouldn't. And I feel like the 49ers are one of the teams that are in prime position to get somebody like that, right? That little extra kick that you didn't know you needed, right? And I feel like that's where it is. And one of these teams is going to do that. Somebody's going to trade up and get 2 first-rounders, or somebody's going to trade out for a veteran, or someone will trade up for something that you had no idea they were going to trade up for, and they're going to need something else. They're going to have to cut somebody. Like, just watch it for the stuff that goes on out there. Like, even if it's a domino and we're the 4th domino that falls out of it, a lot of times that originates because of somebody doing something ridiculous at the draft, right? Somebody trading up for a Mitch Trubisky or something like that, right? Like, whatever those footnotes are. So if you enjoy like drama in itself and seeing what teams are doing as they're trying to scramble to make their teams, not look ridiculous publicly for years, then yeah, you definitely want to watch first round. Plus, with this team, can you ever really rule anything out? I mean, truly?
No.
Like,
Nope.
if Houston decides not to take whoever they're taking, if they decide not to take a quarterback at 2, would anybody be really stunned if they're like, hey, listen, we're going to trade you next year's 1 and a 2 this year for Lance, or a 3 this year for Lance, or something like that, because DeMeco Ryan says I need him over Davis Mills? Because to me, Trey Lance is better than Davis Mills right now, right? So even with Davis Mills getting all that playing time, that's the problem. We've seen Davis Mills plays. We know what he can do. He can't. So, you kind of move on and try something else. Now, do I think that happens? No, but that would be like something that could happen, right? Like something will go crazy. I don't think it'll be us trading into the first round, but I could see chain reactions that affect us because of things that happen in the first round.
Here's a
I'd like
question
to
for you,
watch
Matt.
anyway.
Some
Yeah.
draft day intrigue.
Yeah.
Why would you trade a 1 and 2 for Lance when you could trade a 3 and 4 for Brock Purdy?
You know what? That's a great question. That's a great question, because he is caught. But
Ty, I'm
he's cost
surprised you
controlled,
waited this
right?
long for that.
To throw that
See.
out there.
I was waiting for the
I've been
segue.
waiting,
I
I've
was
been
waiting
waiting for it. I've been waiting
about
for it
timing.
the whole time.
I think you actually want to pay the premium for
Timing.
Purdy. You might want to pay more just because he's cost control, right? Because then you're saving that money. You don't have to pay that first round pick, and you're only paying for Purdy. So like, he's like a double coupon, right? Like he's, he saves you money on both sides of it. So
But that's your low ball offer.
right,
And then when
right.
Yeah, I
when
was
John
gonna
Lynch
say,
counters,
That's
you
someone
can say,
coming in like, I knew he just had some surgery and you got him cheap. Let me double down on the cheap deal here.
Mhm.
Yeah, I could see, Derek, you make a good point. I could really see Seattle taking Jalen Carter or Seattle taking Anthony Richardson are my top two options for them. And yes, you do want to watch what the Seahawks are doing because, frankly, the Seahawks, even though they are the Seahawks, they're the only other team in the division that is even semi-competent right now.
Yeah.
So if they happen to stumble into a couple of things, luckily, and then we have some crappy injury luck, they're still going to be right there on that stalking horse position, right? I'm not worried about the Cardinals or the Rams this year. I mean, I'm not really worried about the Cardinals or the Rams any year, quite frankly. But fun fact. But really, Seattle is a team that you really want to watch in the first round just to see what they do and see how they're trying to build the future of this team. But I'm really rooting for them to draft Richardson with the 5th overall pick and let him learn behind Geno for a year. I think that would be great. And that would be much better than them getting a Jalen Carter type. Jalen Carter reminds me of Warren Sapp. Warren Sapp, if anybody go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask, did they extend Geno? Did they do something with him?
They
They
did.
gave him a new contract.
They
Didn't they?
re-signed him. Yep. They gave him a new deal.
So that makes
I think
They
it's
gave him a
like
new deal,
3
but it
years,
wasn't. It's like
something
one of
like
those. Yeah, but it's like the guarantee's 2 years, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of like
Mhm.
3 years for cap purposes. I think Richardson could be the type that could need to sit and learn behind him for a little bit and get some learning. But to me,
And develop.
Carter's the guy
Yeah.
that's really nasty. He's going to have a chip on his shoulder. This reminds me of the year that Warren Sapp came out with the Bucks, and somebody said that he failed a marijuana test, and then he dropped
Yeah.
down into the draft to get to the Bucks, and went to the Hall of Fame, won a Super Bowl, no big deal. Because Warren Sapp basically just ate up college level stuff, right? I watched him beat the crap out of the Nebraska offensive line in the early '90s when nobody beat the crap out of the Nebraska offensive line. Nebraska changed in one national championship game against the Hurricanes, Nebraska changed their entire schematic to say, okay, just let Warren Sapp just fight through the line and we're going to run around him and run away from him because we want nothing to do with it, right? And he dropped in the draft. I could see a lot of that. Jalen Carter screams Warren Sapp to me. So I do not want him anywhere near the Seattle Seahawks.
I think Seattle could actually be the sleeper team in the NFC.
Yeah.
I can see them making the playoffs again.
Yeah.
And it's not so much that they're really good. It's just the rest of the NFC is not super deep,
They
right?
took a dip. Yep.
I mean, if you look at the NFC East last year, right? Philly, Dallas, the Giants all made the playoffs. Who would have thought at the beginning of the year you'd have 3 NFC East teams in the playoffs?
Yeah.
So,
That's
and
true.
then the NFC Central this year, the NFC North. Good luck figuring that out, right? I mean, right now the Lions are the betting favorite for that division. What hell are we
How
in? This is the
ironic
Detroit
when,
Lions. I don't
when
care how.
4 of their guys were just suspended for
Yeah,
gambling.
for gambling issues.
Exactly. I don't like the odds, friends. That's what I'm going to say.
Oh,
Based on history.
Matt, tip your
Put 'em
waiters and
home.
waitresses. 2 shows a day.
Brought to you by DraftKings. Wager responsibly. But seriously, I don't. You look at that division right now. I could see the Packers winning it again, just because, right? Because now with Aaron
It's so
Rodgers not
weak,
there,
yeah.
maybe they're like, you know what? Let's give the ball to Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, and we'll actually win some football games, which is what they should have been doing for the last 2 years. So they do that, and Jordan Love doesn't turn the ball over. They could easily win that division, right? The NFC West, I could see Seattle making it just by default, just based on who's there. I expect Philadelphia to take a little bit of a step back this year. I don't think their defense is going to be as good. Their offense might be a little better, but you do need to stop people. That's important, as the Super Bowl showed last year. You do need to stop people. Sometimes you make a mistake and then you can't match them, right? So they kind of learned their lesson that year. Are the Giants going to take a step forward, or are they going to take a step back? I could see Seattle taking a step back as well, because I don't think a lot of people took the Seahawks seriously last year. I think they're going to be taken a lot more seriously this year, since they were a playoff team last year. So I could see them taking a step back and maybe finishing one game above 500, hanging around that 500 mark, but still, ended up making the playoffs. So, and then don't even get me started on the NFC South, because good luck with that. New Orleans is the favorite in that division right now, which is just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, none of it makes sense. The whole world is upside down.
All right. So does anyone have any more thoughts?
Nope. It's gonna be a fun draft. That's all I gotta say.
I need to take a
lot of
nap.
Yeah, I think
intrigue.
so.
Yeah.
Fun to
I'm
watch.
looking forward to it. All
Gotta
right,
rest up
so
for it.
let's do that hurry up offense in the 2-minute warning.
Who's going first? Who's on first? And go.
Go ahead, Becca.
Ooh, it's me. I knew you were going to do that. Oh, I have nothing to say. So anyway, hey, Niners, go draft, do your thing. Whatever wild cards we pull out of our arse or we don't, because, sometimes we're we do what we do. Trust the Shanna plan and Kyle, and John, they're going to do their thing. It's going to be fine. I'm looking forward to the draft, and go Niners. See you next week.
Enjoy the draft, everybody.
Thanks.
Like Becca said, trust the Shanna plan. Don't be so upset if we draft a running back in the 3rd round. And go Niners.
Hey, if you hate rumors, don't watch the first round because they're going to be flying. It's going to be wild. That's all I got to say. So, but have fun at the draft. Enjoy.
Reminders, still get your tickets for the Dwight Clark Legacy Night on May 10th at the San Jose Theater, by the way. There's still tickets available for that. Go see Matt Mayoko's story. Also look at the Golden Heart Fund on social media as well. You see that there. Al Shanahan's going to be there. Hot fact.
Ooh.
Al Shanahan, Jerry Rice, Fred Warner.
And
I saw that. I was going to mention it.
Remember me?
Right. He'll totally remember you. Hopefully, security guys not there.
Uh-oh.
I think Matt's internet is taking a nap.
Maddie's out. Jess, it's all you.
All right, guys. Go Niners. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And again, enjoy the draft. And we will see you next week.
Next week. See ya.
Hopefully, no crazy shit.
Yeah.
And of course, for the upstart 49ers, they're 6 yards away from Pontiac. 3rd and 3.
We'll see a pick of some down on the right side, possibly.
Montana